Public Information Officer for the Farmington Police Department. Thank you for joining us today. Speaking with you today, we will have Farmington Police Department Steve Heavy, San Juan County Sheriff's Office Captain Kevin Burns, Farmington Fire Chief Robert Sterrett, San Juan County Communications Authority Director Nicole Brown. We're here to provide you with the latest information regarding the active shooter investigation that took place on May 15th, 2023. Chief Steve Heavy of the Farmington Police Department will be speaking shortly. After the update, we will dedicate 10 to 15 minutes for questions. We encourage those attending via Zoom to submit their questions, which will be monitored and voiced by Christy Hughes, the PIO from the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. Please note that we will only be able to address relevant questions pertaining to the active shooter incident. Without further ado, let me introduce Chief Steve Heavy.
Good afternoon. This has been a difficult week, as you all know, that our officers and really all law enforcement in San Juan County has been navigating. Today we're going to have some information for you on the investigation, which Captain Burns is going to address. We're going to talk some about the response of EMS and fire, which was just outstanding in this, and Chief Sterrett will talk about that from Farmington Fire and Medics perspective. Nicole will be here and talk some about the flood of calls that came in to the dispatch center and what they did the best that they could to respond to those in as fast a manner as they could and pass that information on to our officers. And then I'll come up and I've got some more information for you related to our portion of the investigation. And like Shanice said, then we'll be glad to take questions at the end of this. This week is Police Memorial Week, Police Week. Tonight was a previously scheduled police memorial event that we do every year. Here we talk about the officers in Farmington that have been killed in the line of duty, about really all San Juan County law enforcement agencies who've lost officers doing the job. And against that backdrop then is an event like this, which I think really does drive home the bravery of the men and women that are doing the job and the difficult circumstances. As we go through this today and then tomorrow, we intend to release video to you demonstrating some of what happened in the course of it. I really think you come away seeing the incredible bravery of people that are devoted to trying to keep their community safe, even in the midst of just an unspeakable tragedy for us. So it has been a very difficult day for everyone, and I am just heartsick for our community about what's happened. And as I said in my initial statement, there's just nothing we can really say. We're going to do our best to give you as much information as we can so that you know everything that we know about the investigation, understanding that it will continue to evolve. We've learned new stuff just in the last 24 hours since we talked to you yesterday, and we'll continue to update you over the next couple of days with information that we've got. But that only goes to the why, or the details. It doesn't go to the why something like this happens in the first place, and the how are we going to prevent this. Those are things that frankly keep me up, and I agonize over every night as I'm going to bed to try and figure out how we're going to keep our citizens safe in the world that we're in right now. So I will be back up. I thank you all for coming and for watching wherever you are, and I'll invite up Captain Burns.
Thank you, Chief. Captain Kevin Burns, San Juan County Sheriff's Office. The outpouring of support for our law enforcement officers and our community members cannot be understated and is greatly appreciated. I'm not going to go back over all the information that was put out yesterday. I'm going to add some new information that we've learned in the last 24 hours through our investigation. There were 7 houses that were impacted by rounds fired by the suspect. There were 11 vehicles, to include a fifth wheel RV, that were impacted by rounds fired. There were 5 other injured vehicles victims' vehicles that were struck by gunfire. They left and took themselves to the ER and were treated themselves. There were approximately 176 rounds that we are aware of at this time of casings that were located of caliber .223. 141 of those rounds that we can show at this time were fired from the residence of the suspect. The empty AR-15 was left at that location, and the suspect then obtained the 9mm and the .22 caliber firearm and moved south towards the church. We're still finalizing the number of rounds fired, but at this time, the best information that we have at this time is that the subject fired at least 18 rounds from the church in the volley of fire exchanged by the suspect and law enforcement officers. The suspect engaged officers and was killed in front of the First Church of Christ at 713 North Dustin. We will try to add more information when we have it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Sterrett, Fire Chief with the Farmington Fire Department. I'm going to paint a brief picture of why things went smoothly for us. We've been working closely with FPD and all the local agencies for the better part of a decade through San Juan County OEM exercises, integrating FPD on our scenes and them integrating us on their scenes. We also have a history. We've got 3 members of our department that serve on the SWAT team as SWAT medics. All of this provides that working relationship to make things go smoothly during a hectic time. Everybody heard yesterday the size of the crime scene. Well, that foreshadows the initial size of the crime scene. You will hear from the director of San Juan County Communications Center on the call volume coming in and the numerous reports that were made across a 20-block area. As we had units responding, the heroics from the first responders, San Juan County Regional EMS, Farmington Fire Department, they had to make split decisions on accessing patients and getting patients out of that area and to the hospital for treatment. With that, there is an update on the count. As of yesterday, we had 10 total victims and a rough number on treated and released on scene. So the treated and released on scene is increased to 7 treated and released on scene by San Juan EMS. That number is likely to change still. Thank you.
I'm the director of the San Juan County Communications Authority. My name is Nicole Brown, and I just wanted to speak a little bit about the initial call volume and that came into dispatch. We're a combined dispatch center, so we dispatch for all of San Juan County and all of the city police departments, fire departments, and EMS. We typically, on a day like this, during around 11 o'clock, process about 56 calls in an hour and a half. And on this day, we processed 230 calls for service. There was a large call volume. Everyone who could possibly be answering phones were answering phones, but our dispatchers were also coordinating the initial response. What's wonderful about our combined center is that we are able to very closely coordinate the fire and EMS response with the PD response. So as Chief Sterrett said, we trained together. We've done that for over a decade, and it paid off in that response because we were able to closely coordinate with everyone and make sure that we were able to locate patients and direct crews to the patients as quickly as possible. And that's all I have.
So I thought it was worthwhile to have those other agencies come and talk a little bit, because it's always a team effort. There's always so many different agencies that are trying to scramble in the midst of a crisis. It starts with the dispatchers and the flood of calls that they get in, their ability to process the information and throw it out to the officers on the scene that are responding, continue to update them as the suspect was moving. In this case, it wasn't just FPD officers. There was a whole variety of agencies that were responding. And then at the end of it, when we've got the suspect down, we know we've got civilian casualties, we've got an officer that's been hit, for having fire and EMS responding to the scene before it's secure. We still think there's a possibility of a second shooter in the early stages. Nonetheless, fire came racing in with the medics to begin treatment on citizens right away. Some of that goes to the training that we've been doing for years together as a department. And then some of it just goes to the relationship we have with Farmington Fire, where really we have the mixed SWAT team and their personnel are in. So that is not every city, and I thought every one of those entities should be up here and have a chance to talk with you a little bit to give their perspective on what happened. There's a number of things I do want to kind of update you with. One of the questions that was asked yesterday was how many rounds totally, how much ammo was available to the suspect, and to the best of our ability, it's over 1,400 rounds. Were either on the suspect and he had used them, or they were still in some of the weapons, and we'll talk about that in a minute, or they were inside the house that this all started from. So the suspect had access to a lot of ammunition. There were also 10 other weapons of various calibers that were at the residence. The suspect had a rifle and 2 pistols, but he had access to potentially 10 other weapons that were at the residence. The weapons that the suspect utilized was an AR-15 and then a .22 caliber pistol and a 9mm pistol. The last 2 is the suspect took with him as he began walking, and he was firing around the neighborhood and firing at other cars and houses. The AR-15 he used at the scene initially at his residence, fired a bunch of rounds off, hitting several people, and then discarded the weapon into some bushes near the residence where we found it. The weapon, the AR-15 still had a round in the chamber and a magazine with rounds in it. And when he discarded it, I'm not quite sure why he made that decision to discard it at that point, but he did. Later on, and I don't know if we've got that ability right now to show the map. We'll put this up for you so you can see that, and I'm catching our staff by surprise that I'm asking that. But as he leaves the residence and he begins walking, he discards the .22 caliber pistol. That is still found with a round in the chamber and is loaded, still has ammunition in it. He discards it anyway. So what we're showing you is the map, and some of this goes to the difficulty that we've had in presenting to you exactly what happened. It isn't a nice contained scene where our officers are able to keep everything and we can count stuff pretty easily. It's spreading throughout the neighborhood. He's firing at different people. He's firing at different cars and buildings as he's walking, and then begins discarding stuff. So discarded the AR-15 at the scene, discards the .22 as he's walking. He's also wearing bulletproof vest, similar to what the police would wear. I don't think that we've confirmed that for you in the past, but we've got photos of it up here. So it's similar to what a police officer would wear. It has the soft armor in it, but then he's also, we think it may be homemade. He's got steel plates in it as well. So we'll give you those photos through our PIO after this as well, but I wanted you to have a chance to see it. That was found very close to where the .22 was discarded, and then it was some distance further on that the suspect makes his last stand and is confronted by the police. So he actually is wearing the vest, we believe, in one of the ring videos that we'll be releasing likely tomorrow. And then by the time we confront him at the final battle place, he's removed it for whatever reason. Additionally, we find the 9mm pistol is with him. We believe that's what he was using in the final exchange of shots with our officers. That pistol was empty by the time the battle was over. So we also learned he had purchased 3 magazines for the AR-15 about 2 days before this event. So he purchased the AR-15, if you recall, in November. He turned 18 in October purchases the AR-15 in November. And then just 2 days before the event, he goes and purchases 3 more magazines for the AR-15. We have been talking with family members and trying to do more investigation into his mental health that appears early on to be a factor. That's being told to us by his family. We've certainly heard and seen things online, I'm sure same as you have, about that, and we're doing more in-depth investigation into that, including subpoenas into his school records and things like that to see if there is sort of a documented history on that. But our initial report from the family of the suspect is that he was struggling with mental health issues. We'll wind up finding in the next couple of days what medication, if any, he was taking, if he was under a doctor's care in some form or fashion. We will learn that and we will pass that on to you in coming days. Okay. And did we have another photo I was gonna? Yes. So in the course of the investigation, we found a note in his pocket, which we're going to put up here for you. The note refers to this being sort of his final event, and that if anyone messes with his sister, there'll be problems. You can see that we're also going to send out through our PIO. We'll send out to all of you a copy of this picture, so you'll see what the note was. We're trying to piece together exactly what that means. Was there some sort of issue with the sister that we don't know about? So far, we've not been able to find anyone that can go into details on that knows anything about it. It doesn't appear that there was any sort of significant event with the sister right before this event, but it was something that he had in his pocket and goes to, as you are asking, we are asking as well, what was the motivation? How did we come to be here? This is about the best we've got. We've not found any other notes. We've not heard any other statements. And our contact with the family right now is that there did not appear to be significant indications that something was going to happen that day. So this we just found, and I wanted to get out to you today. With that, I will close my remarks, and I'll open it up to any questions that we may not have addressed for you. Yes, sir.
Chief, by all accounts, this young man was very well outfitted and very well armed with expensive equipment. Is there any indication of how an 18-year-old young man was able to afford all this equipment?
I think a couple of the pistols were family. He's living at the family's residence. Like I described, there's other weapons there, so he didn't procure those. How he came to procure the vest is certainly something we're going to be looking at and trying to figure out, and we don't know those details at all as I stand here today. Don't know how he got a vest or why. The AR-15 he appears to have purchased, and I don't know the circumstances by which he did that, but we're looking into that purchase as well. First.
Given that he purchased the magazines a couple of days before this happened, does that indicate to you at all that this might have been premeditated?
Yes, right. You think that that's certainly something he had in his head and that he was preparing for it. On the other hand, he had purchased a weapon back in November. Maybe he was just buying a couple more mags for the weapon. So I can't really subscribe to what exactly he was thinking, but yes, it is a red flag to us that maybe he was planning something. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to be clear on a couple things, just to make sure that I'm hearing correctly. You said that he had access to 10 firearms at his home, right? Which belong to his parents. Are his parents being held responsible in any of this? And then on top of that, I know you guys are still searching for a motive, if I'm not mistaken. And just to be clear, did you say you have 1,400 rounds of ammunition and fired 141? Is that what you stated?
No. He had the 3 weapons that he used in this event, and then he had access to 10 more at the family home. He didn't use any of those, but he had access to them had he wanted to. The question yesterday was more about the totality of ammunition that he had available to him, and we believe it was over 1,400 rounds. Now, there's several guns in the house, right, and it's his dad's house, so I'm not saying that he stockpiled that ammunition. The ammo's for the other weapons, I imagine, as well as for the weapons that we used, that we had in this incident. So he did fire off, as the sheriff's office is explaining, close to 150 rounds that he had on him. But he didn't have ammo in his pockets or anything like that. He'd left all the remaining ammo back at the house.
And I know you guys still investigating that his parents being held responsible in the kind of situation where they felt he was well, the fact that he had access to 10 firearms and 110 firearms at his home.
Yes, we're looking at those things, but it isn't illegal for people to own weapons. So his dad had weapons in the house, like many folks do. We're certainly looking at the circumstances by which he procured the AR-15 and some of the other weapons. And part of the investigation will take us into, what were the circumstances by which the other weapons had been obtained. But no, at this point in time, we're not holding anybody responsible. Yes, Mike?
Was he the only one home at the time?
He was the only one home at the time. Yes. Yes.
Is there indication the suspect was prepared to use the ammo and additional weapons that were found in the house?
There aren't. They were kind of scattered around the property, the residents to include in an RV that was out front. So it wasn't like he'd marshaled them in one single place, had all the ammo there, and was preparing for a stand. It looked like, near as we can tell, and this is conjecture, still in the early stages, that he planned to use the 3 weapons that he had, and he went outside and he did just that, and did not try to go back or retrieve more ammunition or other firearms. Yes, Mike?
It was stated yesterday that he had several residences in Farmington, but just to clarify, he was living in this house with his parents at the time in the neighborhood?
He was living in this residence with his father. His mother lives at a different location, and he did stay there some as well. Yes.
Do we know how much ammunition was exchanged between the officers and the suspect?
As far as the actual exchange of gunfire, no, I don't think we have those numbers. Not sure if we'll ever really know how many rounds he fired directly at officers versus he was already firing at people. That'll be a more difficult one to get. In general, what we know is, there was a sharp exchange of gunfire, which you'll see in the videos tomorrow that we'll release. There was a sharp exchange of gunfire between the police and the suspect that ultimately resulted in our officer being shot, the state police officer being shot, and the suspect being killed. Yes.
Do we know if he shot all 3 of the weapons?
We believe he fired all 3 of the weapons. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the difficulty of processing such a large crime scene, especially one that involves a busy street?
Yes. I mean, a lot of it goes to even just our ability to give you information and then have it be accurate. I can give you what I think today, but honestly, what I know today is different than what we believed 2 days ago. We've certainly learned a bunch more. So it is a complex scene. It demands a lot of resources, puts a big strain on the community in that area. I know who've already been through a significant trauma and now have everything locked down as we try and parse through and find all the casings and where the bullets went when they were fired. So it has been an extremely difficult scene to process for us, no doubt about it. First, Mike, then.
I understand you were out of town when this happened. Could you tell us how you were informed and what your reaction was?
I was out of town. I had just sat down to lunch with my dad that I see every now and then, and I received a phone call. It had just started, really. We were trying to figure out whether there was a second shooter, and it was, it is a difficult thing to have such a strong connection with the community and with the department and know that we're in the middle of something like this and I'm not there. So it was very difficult. I was able to, keep up through the phone. My wife did a fantastic job of packing, and as soon as I filmed that video statement that we put out, we began driving back from Wisconsin. We were able to make it early last evening. But it was frustrating and difficult to be so far away at a critical time. Sure.
Just to be clear, you said 7 houses and 11 vehicles were impacted by those fires, and then 5 other vehicles struck by those fires. Is that including 11 cars already? Oh, okay. And then the people that were struck by a gunfire were pretty overlapped or treated.
Christy?
Did he appear to be trained in any way as a shooter?
I don't think that we know that. Portions of you would think, yes, he was able to hit quite a few people in a chaotic scene. Some of you may then infer that he had some training in that. On the other hand, it was wildly indiscriminate shooting as well. So I don't think that we believe he had any sort of military training or anything like that. Whether he had any classroom training and use of a firearm, we don't know yet. Okay. I'll wrap up by saying, I know many of you know it has been an extremely difficult 5 weeks or so for Farmington and for Farmington PD. It culminates in an event like this that is just devastating to the community. Another one of our officers is shot. 2 officers in 16, 17 months are shot here. We haven't had an officer shot in 30 years previous to that. Some of it goes to the social media world we live in. We all want answers immediately. We all know everything that should happen, and we know it perfectly. And we're amazingly intolerant of a slower pace where we're trying to figure out what's going on, or of people making mistakes, which our officers do. But this event it's such a reminder of the difficult job that our officers face every day, and that the bond we have with the community, where you will see in the video tomorrow, where citizens are just running up to the officers, telling them that they were shot at, directing them to where the suspect has gone. You see our officer actually sees the suspect at one point and is running down the street, even though he's just walked past 3 people that were shot. One that's just laying in the street, our citizens. And so there are failings, and we have had our tough days, but it is such an incredible devotion to our community that would have officers doing things like that under those circumstances. And although I know we've had our tough days, and the nature of the job is we will have other difficult days, I will finish by saying on Police Memorial Week, for our officers to respond as fast as they did to this kind of a significant threat, easily the worst threat that we've had as a community, and to end that threat with as few lives that are taken as were taken is just incredible. I'm very proud of the department. I'm extremely heartbroken for our community and for the family members, some of whom we met today, that saw the videos we're going to release to you tomorrow. They had a chance to watch them and see what happened. I extend nothing but my deepest condolences to the families. And I reiterate, I'm so proud of the officers that responded under those circumstances, and all the team, the dispatchers, the medics, the firemen that responded to do their level best for our community. So with that, yes, sir.
Can you describe the morale around the department right now, inside the department?
It's been a long 5 weeks. I thought that we've endured extremely sharp criticism of our officers in our department, and still the officers have tried to rally themselves. They still have to go out and do the job, which is one of the things that we as a command staff and myself as chief have told them. We need you to focus. We need you to ignore some of the noise about your job and just focus. And the fact that they did that and that they reacted in this way, I think that's testament to the morale. Yes, I think that we all know that we've had some difficult days, but at its core, at its moment, they responded and did the job. So, I don't know that I don't know you're ever ready for an event like this. So I think we're all a little stunned by it, especially in a city our size, to have something like this happen. But I thought at its moment, their morale was on display. They did just a great job. Yeah.
Just to clarify, I think earlier you had said that the shooting began from a residence. Just wanted to check, was he shooting, or did he start shooting from inside a home, out a window, or was it outside?
No, he came outside the residence where he was living at, and then engaged the two vehicles to start the shootings. Sure. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. We'll be here again tomorrow at 2 with, like I said, we'll release some video to you, and we'll give you the latest updates that we have. Thank you.